Hey, good morning, Kensington. So, did you guys see the snowballs in the lobby? Or is that an after-service thing? Then I just ruined it. Okay, after service, we're definitely throwing snowballs. Apparently, that's what we did today. I got hit. I walked down to the lobby to say good morning, everybody, and I got pelted by all first service. Like everywhere I went, it was ridiculous. So that's not what you were supposed to do. I'm going to preemptively get my pelting out right now. So there you go. Good catch. Wow, this could get dangerous any minute now. So, couple things to let you guys know about that are happening around Kensington, things that are coming up that you may want to be involved in. One of which is this Wednesday is midweek. If you've not been to one of our midweek encounters, this is your chance. We take and we change around this room. Kind of the whole intent is to have encounter with Jesus and with one another. So we change the space, which changes the pace for us. We have pizza, so we feed you when you get here and just make a whole night out of it. Hopefully you can join us. Our midweeks are becoming one of the most exciting and one of the fastest growing things that we're doing right now by way of attendance and people being involved in it. Also, coming up this weekend, we have two exciting things. Number one is the IF Gathering. I believe we have a slide for a little bit of info. The IF Gathering is going to be a gathering of our women getting together for encouragement, for challenge, for support, for leaning into the scriptures. It's going to be held here. It's going to be an incredible night. If you've not heard about it or signed up for it, there's where you can get all of your information. And then lastly, we have Takeover, which is our middle school all-nighter, also taking place here. So if you're a middle school student or you have a middle school student, you're definitely going to want to have them be a part of this. It's going to be an incredible night. Watching the team prepare, watching them plan, I'm almost tempted to sneak in myself. So those are things that are happening around here that you're going to want to know about and even some of them hopefully be a part of. So we're going to go ahead and shift gears now. We have a song that we're going to open up with this morning. If you're a regular to Kensington, it's not a new song. It's called Death Was Arrested. And it made me think of this passage in Scripture that unfortunately it's like gotten pushed to only the Easter moment read. Matthew 28. After the Sabbath at the dawn on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to the tomb. And upon arriving, there was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord had come down from heaven and going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow, and the guards were so afraid of them that they shook and became like dead men. And the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He is not here." Possibly four of the most important words in all of the Bible. In the tomb where they laid him, to be said of an angelic representative, "He is not here." And those four words changed everything. I was thinking about this passage in light of the song that we're about to sing, but also in light of just everything that we're watching happen right now around our world, particularly obviously thinking about Ukraine. I'm going to read something for you that somebody actually shared with me this morning. We have somebody through a series of relationships and connections, knows people that know people. So this is a text that came out of Ukraine just 8 hours ago from a pastor who lives there and his family. He's thanking a group of people that have been praying for them for their safety, and this is what he shared. "Please tell your people that because of their prayers, God really is fighting our battles. The rockets actually disappeared in the air without ever reaching our homes. No one's not sure where they landed, but they did not hit our homes. Enemy tanks have been running out of fuel, and so Russian troops have been getting lost and asking locals for food and directions. We feel like this is definitely God because we're dealing with the second strongest army in the world. This morning, Kiev and other major cities are still free, and where we live has not been taken over, and we have not been pushed to our basements yet. Thank you for your prayers." I don't know what kind of things you're going to post later today, but it won't be that. And that makes me think of this. He is not here. We certainly pray for what we see happening. You see your posts, you've seen a lot of posts around. We're praying, we're trusting God, we're asking him to intervene, we're denouncing evil and wickedness, and yet we also know this. Because the tomb is empty, no force on this earth has the final word and say. Jesus and Jesus alone does. And so I hope that as we move through the rest of this week, and even as we just sit in this moment of singing and acknowledging through words who God is, what he has done, the grave he has conquered, it would even lead us to know how to have confidence in him and pray to him for what we see happening overseas. Because as we'll sing, death has been arrested, because as the angel announced at the tomb, he wasn't there.
Alone in my sorrow and dead in my sin, lost without hope, with no place to begin. Your love made a way to let mercy come in. When death was arrested and my life began, ash was redeemed, only beauty remains. My orphan heart was given a name. My mourning grew quiet, my feet rose to dance. When death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. Released from my chains, I'm a prisoner of love. My shame was a ransom he faithfully bore. He canceled my debt and he called me his friend. When death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Our Savior displayed on a criminal's cross. Darkness rejoiced as though heaven had lost. But then Jesus arose with our freedom in hand. That's when death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace, oh, your grace. Oh, your grace, so free, washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you.
All the saints and angels bow before your throne, and all the elders cast their crowns before the Lamb of God and sing, "You are worthy of it all. You are worthy of it all. For from you are all things, and to you are all things. You deserve the glory. And all the saints and angels, they bow before your throne, and all the elders cast their crowns before the Lamb of God
is you, Lord, is you, Lord. All I need is you. Come on, you sing. All I need is you, Lord, is you, Lord. All I need is you. All I need is you, Lord, is you, Lord. All I need is you. It's all I need is you, Lord. Oh, is you, Lord. Yes, all I need is you. All I need is you, Lord. Oh, is you, Lord. All I need is you. It's all I need is you. It's you. Oh, 'cause all of the glory is yours, it's yours, it's yours, it's yours. All of the glory is yours, it's yours, it's yours, it's yours. All of the glory is yours, it's yours, it's yours, it's yours. All of the glory is yours, it's yours, it's yours. All of the glory is yours, it's yours, it's yours. Come on, say it. All of the glory is yours, it's yours, it's yours, it's yours. All of the glory is yours, it's yours, it's yours. All of the glory, oh, 'cause you are worthy of it all. You are worthy of it all. For from you are all things, and to you are all things. You deserve the glory. You are worthy of it all. 'Cause you are worthy of it all. For from you are all things, and to you are all things. You deserve the glory. Come on, let's just say it one more time. You are worthy of it all. Come on, just you. You are worthy of it all. For from you is you deserve the glory. Yeah.
You guys are awesome. Appreciate all of you. Good morning. That I don't know if you guys do music like I do, but if I find a song that speaks to me, it tends to go on repeat till I wear it out. That song has been on repeat for a couple weeks for me. But I don't know if you know this, that song is actually a reflection of things that we get a picture of in the Bible that are currently happening in heaven and are yet to still happen. There's this place in Revelation chapter 4, Revelation being written by John, who is one of Jesus' disciples. They tried to kill him like the rest, threw him in oil, tried to boil him alive, didn't kill him. So they decided he had some kind of something about him. Let's just leave him alone at this point. So they sent him off to an island to live out alone and die there. And in that place, God gives him a moment of this vision of transcendence to see part of what was happening in the supernatural realm, both then, now, and things still yet to come. And part of what we just sang is actually part of what God once showed John is and will still happen. Chapter 4, verse 3. And the one who sat there, so he's talking about the throne in heaven, Jesus sitting on that throne. And the one who sat there had the appearance of jasper and ruby, and a rainbow that shone like the emerald encircled the throne. Surrounding the throne were 24 other thrones, and seated on them were 24 elders. They were dressed in white, and they had crowns of gold on their heads. So what most people believe is that these 24 elders are the representatives of the church. So one day there will be these people sitting in these thrones who represent what is, what was, what will be this church of Jesus Christ, his bride, his body left here to do his work. So here's what those elders are doing according to what John saw. Verse 10, then the 24 elders fell down before him who sits on the throne, and they worshiped him who lives forever and ever. And they lay their crowns before the throne and say, I love this, they take their crown. So everything that would be their accomplishments, their self-worth, the things to brag about, the things to point to, they take it all off and they go, not in your presence. And they throw them down in front of the throne of Jesus. And this is what they say as they do. You are worthy, our Lord and our God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they were created and have their being. And for all eternity, these elders stand at the ready to worship Jesus at any moment, casting their crowns before him and acknowledging, you are worthy of it all. And the thing that brings out this eternal worship and posture before the throne of Jesus, ironically, is found in, I think, one word. The explanation for this, the explanation for why this group of elders before the throne for all eternity is in this posture of worship is the result of one word out of one verse that is the most recognized verse in all the Bible. John 3:16. On your screens, I don't need to read John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. Let me ask you a question. What do you think is the most important word in those words, in that verse? Eternal life, love. I used to think love too. That was what I would have said for the longest time, and it's only been in the last couple years that I think I've really begun to realize gave. Because if God had love for us but didn't give and withheld, we lose. It's because he gave. At the heart of the Creator is a posture to give to the fullest extent possible when he gave himself on the cross. And one of the incredible things about doing life with God, it's not a religious routine. It's not just about behavior modification. It is about being wrapped up in a relationship with the one who breathed you to existence, who longs to give to you. To give himself, to give salvation, to give love, to give joy, to give peace, to give hope. He is a God of giving. And he is a God who then, when we follow him, invites our heart to have a posture of giving as well. Give what? The same thing he gave, which is everything. To give everything. So we're starting a series called The Generous Way today for the next couple of weeks to try to unpack for a few weeks in a row ideas of giving and taking and generosity and selfishness and how our heart gets wrapped up in stuff and misses God. And what all of it means when he says in one place in the Bible, where your treasure is, do you know how it goes? There your heart will be also. Because one of the things that I've learned about Jesus is that even when it seems like he's trying to take from us, he's actually trying to give. The last couple of years of my life have been full of a number of moments where, frankly, God has been taking things. And some of them I fought him on, some of them I didn't understand, some of them I was discouraged by, but every single one of them, I have learned on the other side of it, he gave, even when he took. So I want to pray and just ask that he be present to us in a way that we would know him. If you're familiar, you know this part of what I do, but if you're new, because somebody asked me in first service, I kneel before I pray and before I speak, because I really do believe that what we all need, myself included, is to hear from God today, not to hear from me. And I believe he is who the scriptures call him to be. He is king. And what do you do in the presence of a king? Father, I just come to you acknowledging that I do believe what Revelation teaches us, what that song gives us opportunity to sing, that you are worthy of it all. Because from you are all things, and to you are all things. God, would you be good to us this morning in a way that we would know your presence, we would know your voice, that you would give clarity to us, that you would speak beyond our defenses, that you would speak beyond our resistance, that you would speak beyond anything that would create barrier to your voice. God, even if that's me, don't let me be a barrier. So if there's things that I plan to say that aren't you, take them away. I pray that what would be clear today is Jesus, lifted up and exalted. I pray that you would give us insight into ourselves, into our own hearts this morning, and into ideas that for 2,000 years you have been teaching your church, and for even thousands before that, you began to through the prophets and through the nation of Israel. But God, would you begin to speak to us about the way that we run after lesser things in this world, that we sell ourselves short of all the life that it is you want to give us. And I just pray that when we walk out of here this morning, we would have at least a whisper of something that we took from you, whether we are sitting here now convinced there even is a you, or we're not sure if there's a you, or we're devoted to you. Let us walk out of here this morning and our ears catch a whisper of your voice that draws us to you and draws us to life. In Jesus' name, amen. One of the things I want to do before we go any further is, by the way, I'm going to say this again. I said it in first service. Does anybody else every single week sit in here like me and go, how does the pig farmer have such an amazing voice? I imagine God in heaven at one point. He's like, and this one's going to take care of pigs and sing like an angel. We're going to put those together. Like, I'm going to blow everybody's mind. Thanks, Matthias. Thank you. And Chris, you too, since you were there. No, I'm just making it awkward. Okay, so we're going to take up our morning offering today, and let me just say this. This is one of the things that is not just a part of what we ask you to do. Listen, I'm not just on staff here at Kensington. I'm a member, so this is part of me. This is part of us. We do this as well. This is one of the things that my family is most excited to be able to do, is to participate in what God is doing through Kensington locally and globally. And these are the moments that make all of that happen, and you are the people that get it done. So first of all, I want to say thank you. Second, if you're not a part of this with us, we'd love to have you join us. There's a lot of things that we put our money to, and sometimes we don't realize for a long time that it wasn't worth it. Sometimes we realize very quickly it wasn't worth it. I have never, ever, ever felt like what my wife and my family does to continue to support the work of the local church is one of those things. So if you're not a part of that, we would love to have you. Obviously, you can see it on the screen. There's all the ways that you can jump into that. If you're more of a physical, tactile, then we have giving places in the back that you can use as you walk out the doors. But I just want to say thank you. So many ways, so many people whose lives are being touched, loved on, and really transformed by the gospel because you're saying we want to invest in that and we want to make that happen. So thank you. All right, you guys good? You guys ready to interact a little bit today? Participate? One of you? All right, you are. That's nice. Good job. I'm gonna save this one in case I see somebody yawn. Just know, if I see you yawn, that's going right in your pie hole. It's going there. 3303, probably one of the best days of mine and my wife Nicole's life, rivaled only by 1207. Those were when our kids were all born. But 3303 is when it all began. That's when we became parents for the first time. Our son Tobin entered the world, as the nurses and doctors called him, the Gerber baby. He was chubby and adorable from day one. But you remember that if you're a parent, like that first day, the first kid is just, you're walking on cloud nine. I remember I was just sobbing the whole time. I'm not a huge crier, but I was just sitting the whole time like, I love this kid. It's just like an amazing day. 3403 was very different. It's like, you don't even know where I'm going yet. Hold on. 3403, doctors come in, nurses come in, they're doing their routine check, and at one point, stethoscope on the chest, nurse goes, oh. And oh is not good when there's a stethoscope on the chest. And if you're a first-time parent, you know this. Like if you've got multiple kids now, like the first one, you freak out about everything. Right? I was one of 7 growing up, and I think by the time we got to the 7th, she got lost a few times for a few days before we realized it. But when it's number 1, like everything is a panic moment, especially when they're only a day old and the doctor goes, ooh, something here doesn't sound right. So they take them away. The next couple of days, tests and monitors, and they end up coming back and telling us he was born with a condition called VSD, ventricular septal defect. So between the left and right chamber of the lower part of his heart, he had 6 holes. which they were very, very small, but the cardiologist said in all of his years, and he was near retirement, he had never seen that many holes. So this became, I'll show you a picture. This is my son, Tobin. He's now almost 19, so he'd be horrified that I'm putting this up. He's probably here somewhere. But I think this was around 10 years old, and this was our life for the first number of years of his life, is constant monitoring, testing, making sure everything was okay, making sure nothing was gonna go wrong, especially as he got more active and got older, is just making sure, hey, how is he doing? And thankfully, he never did have any issues, but it became a part of our lives, is paying attention to his heart. And for me and my family, actually, paying attention to our heart has been something I feel like we've been forced into. Both of my grandparents on my dad's side died of massive unexpected heart attacks. My dad himself has had all kinds of things from blockages to AFib to a heart attack a couple of years ago. I kid you not. I go to the hospital. He's sitting in the hospital room. He's all monitored up. I'm like, Dad, when did you start feeling stuff? It was a Sunday afternoon. They were having lunch at some restaurant. And I'm thinking like an hour ago before lunch or maybe at church. And he goes, well, like a week and a half ago. I was like, Dad. And then he says to me at some point while we're in there, and the doctors literally came in and said, not only did he have a heart attack, we think he may be having one right now. My dad asked me if I'd go get the leftover chicken wings in the van and bring them to him. I'm like, Dad, you don't see the connection here right now? You don't need the chicken wings. A couple of years ago, I learned that I have a benign arrhythmia. I was sitting at the movies with my family, and all of a sudden my heart, it like just started playing the drums. It was like boom, 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 and then it just went boom, boom, and I'm kidding you not, took my entire breath away. I almost blacked out. It was like one of those it goes black, comes back in. I'm like, so I had to wear a monitor and a halter for a while, and they're like, oh, you've got a weird arrhythmia, you gotta take medicine every day for it. So in our family, we have been forced to pay attention to this thing. And nothing in life like your heart has bearing on your overall well-being. As a matter of fact, and you know this as well as I do, but it probably is necessary to point out in today's message, is that's why even now, what's the leading cause of death? Yeah, heart attack or heart issues, something related to the heart. Causes like COVID or cancer or diabetes or accidents or any other list of things still fall behind. The leading cause of human life being shut short is something to do with the heart. Which is probably why everything today tells you what your heart's doing, whether how fast it's going, how slow it's going, your watch does, your phone does, exercise equipment. There's even steering wheels I've learned recently on certain cars that will tell you what your heart is doing and can call for you if you need assistance. Like, that's insane. But the reason is, I'm gonna say it again, your heart, unlike anything else in life, has bearing on your overall well-being. Your life, your experience of it, and your consistency of it. And it's not just a principle that's true physically, this is one that is equally true spiritually. There's a verse in the Bible, the book of Proverbs. It's written by David's son, and this is what Proverbs says, above all else, which we could spend the entire morning just on that, above all else, when the scriptures say of everything else, above, above, above. So he's laying priority, he's laying importance here. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Other places say it is the wellspring of life. All throughout the scriptures, there's more than one place, Old Testament, New Testament, the prophets, Jesus, that speak to the importance of paying attention to our heart. And not on some ethereal, like spiritual ground because it just makes you like spiritually better. No, it actually affects spiritually your heart, affects physically your life as well. There's even a place in the Bible, and some of you will recognize this, I already referenced one of the verses, where Jesus speaks to this and he says, there are actually ways to treat this that have implication on your spiritual well-being and your physical well-being. It's basically a way to guard it. And it's the way that we've titled the series. It's the generous way. It is the way of generosity, where we untangle our heart with our stuff. Here's how Jesus says it. If you have your Bibles, flip them open to Matthew chapter 6. Verse 19, Jesus says, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and vermin destroy, where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So here's this introduction from Jesus of these two different ideas that can get intermingled, either in a healthy way or an unhealthy way, your heart and your treasure. And he goes on. The eye is the lamp of the body, and if your eyes are healthy, if you have footnotes in your Bible, they're going to tell you what I'm about to tell you. But these two words that I'm going to point out can actually be translated slightly different. So when it says here, your eyes are healthy, that can equally be translated as generous. If your eyes are generous, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, and this can be translated as stingy. If your eyes are stingy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and, say it, money. Now some of you are like, doggone it, this could have been a free Sunday for me. We're talking about I should have stayed home. Or if you're online, you're like, going to Life Church. No, stay with us. Hold on. I want to make a few disclaimers. Because whenever we start talking about money, and a lot of times, let's be honest, especially at a bigger church, we start thinking campaign. So point number one, so serious, it's on the screen, here you go. You ready? This is not a campaign. Everybody say it when you're like nervous, like, no, it really isn't. Say it with me. This is not a campaign. Okay, this is not a campaign. This 3-week series is not about getting your money. It's not about buying the church staff a new plane. The one we have works just fine. We don't have a plane, or do we? No, we don't. Okay, this is not about your money, but let's be honest. Some of you have personally experienced, and probably all of us have at least heard about horror stories of churches and religious leaders using the Bible, using spirituality, using Jesus to manipulate people, to get money and resources from them. Give and sacrifice for the Lord, and then they've got a house in Fiji. And so all of us approach a subject like this with a lot of skepticism, not to mention the fact that there's very few things in life that we hold quite as tight as we do our money. That's why Jesus talks about the entanglement of it with our hearts. And then if we're really honest, especially when you walk into a place like this, the megachurch. The megachurch, rightfully so, unfortunately, doesn't have a great reputation in a lot of places with how we have treated this subject, because we've abused it at times. We've used Jesus and spirituality, we've used the scriptures to our own gain sometimes, and so it's very understandable when you walk into a place like this with the bells and the whistles and the lights and the flash to go, of course the megachurch wants to talk about money. And so I just want you to know this. As we go into this series, and as I do make challenge that will have to do with your money, if anything I just said, particularly as it pertains to Kensington, is a barrier to you trusting God and stepping towards the challenge, please know this. Couple things. Number one, I get that. It makes perfect sense. Because we're the big, we're the flashy. You can look around and go, yeah, okay, you need money. Here's what I'd also say. I'm totally honest about this. I put together a list of 10 other local places that I would encourage you to give to if you don't feel comfortable doing it here. This isn't about us trying to get your money. This is about us trying to talk for the next couple of weeks about the entanglement of our heart and our stuff to lead us to a healthier place. Although, that being said, nobody woke up this morning and was like, I really hope Craig's gonna talk about money and giving and generosity today. Woo! Like nobody did, right? Nobody came here hoping for that and expecting that. However, it is to our detriment if we don't pay attention to the amount of times the Bible and Jesus himself talks about money. Do you know that the Bible talks in cover to cover, if you were to add it all up, when it comes to the subject of prayer and faith, do you know the Bible talks about it about 500 times? Which, if anybody reinforces something 500 times, they're trying to make it important, right? Like if your kids do what my kids do, by the time they get to the third, Dad, I'm like, stop it, like it's just pestering. So how about being pestered 500 times? Do you think if God's saying something 500 times about prayer and faith, he's trying to make a point? Answer is? Okay, any guesses how many times he talks about money throughout the Bible? Over 2,000. And Jesus does quite a bit as well. About 40% of his parables had to do with money, riches, resources, stuff. And hear this, it wasn't to get it. God does not want and need your money. The being that can create a planet with a sneeze, there's Pluto, doesn't need your stuff, doesn't need my stuff. Matter of fact, the scriptures say of Jesus, he had no place to lay his head. Matter of fact, if you read through the Gospels, you'll never find Jesus taking up an offering. His point wasn't, I want to get your stuff. His point was, I want to get your stuff untangled from your heart because I want to lead you to a healthier place. There was even a time when Jesus confronted a group of religious leaders, Matthew 23, and he got all in their face. And he actually acknowledged that they were tithing even, not even just giving, but they were tithing. And he says that he didn't really care because while they were tithing, he goes on to rebuke them because they weren't faithful, they weren't kind and merciful. So literally, that's what he says. You're big givers, but you're jerks. So he wasn't impressed with their giving. So I just want to be abundantly clear. This series is not about your money. It is about our health. It's about our heart. And it's about our heart being tangled up with our stuff in a way that leads us to an unhealthy place versus a healthy place. Because the tanglement of your stuff and your heart, it affects everything. It affects your relationships, it affects your marriage, it affects your well-being, it affects your personal sense of worth, it affects your encounter with God, it affects your outlook on life, it affects your peace, it affects everything. And Jesus says in this story, in this moment where he's teaching, there's essentially two ways to live. Not 3, not 4, not 2.2. There's two ways to live. Generous or stingy. That's it. You can either live for what lasts or you can live for what rusts. A couple years ago when my wife and I met in college, so we got married when we were super young. I was like 20. We were still in school. We decided, you know what, it's better to be married and broke than broke and separate, so let's just do this. But I was living on my own in Southfield, and so I needed to do like the unthinkable. I called up my dad. I was like, Dad, can I move back home for a couple months? So I had to move back home just to save money. So my dad's like, yeah, which is horrible in and of itself. Then I had to bunk with my younger brother who took my room over. It was a time of life. But I needed to save up the money so we could get married. At the same time, because of that, I also was trying to find a new job because I wasn't making much at the place I was working. So there was this one day, all of this collides. I had just moved from my house in Southfield. I had everything packed up into my car. As a matter of fact, I have a picture of the car. This was my car. Come on, man. The first service laughed at me too. It was my car. You mean to tell me every car you had was cool? Okay, so that's all I could afford. That was actually, I didn't even afford it. My future father-in-law bought it for me. Whole nother story. But that was my car. And so there's this day I'm driving this and everything collides. I'm on my way to an interview. I've got every worldly possession. I'm not kidding. Every in the back of that car, which means I didn't have much if it fit there. But I've got everything in there because I'm in the middle of moving. I'm on my way to the interview. I'm on 94 going east. And if you can think of the area where Harper exits at, kind of slopes down really steep. So I'm driving my car. This dude does a 3-lane change, clips me, sends me into a spin, literally spin a couple times, and I stop facing traffic, heart's going, and all of a sudden I feel this. Yeah, because I was right on the edge, and I rolled it over and over and over down into the pit of that little valley. Every window blew out. The roof completely caved in. As a matter of fact, what saved my life is the brackets broke on my seat, and I fell completely flat in the back. The roof came in so low, it smashed my steering wheel. So I laid there for a little bit, and I finally get out of the car, and there's already an ambulance up above, and they come down, and they help me out. And before I knew it, I was strapped to a board. I had my chest strap, my arm strap, my neck brace on. They're rushing me into the hospital. I get there. All of my stuff is scattered all over the highway and the field and this little dirty, nasty, muddy pond. It's just gone. Everything I owned, literally gone. I get to the hospital. They start cutting my pants off. And then they go to my shoes. They're like newer shoes. I literally sit up in bed and I started crying. I go, please don't cut my shoes. They're all I have. So the nurse literally unties my shoes. And I go, thank you. And so I have this just really weird moment that I hope I never have to repeat again, where I literally had to see every single thing I own fly away. Gone. There's a verse in the scriptures, in the book of Psalm. Psalm says it this way about wealth. Do not wear yourself out to get rich, and do not trust your own cleverness. Cast but a glance at riches, and they are gone. For they will surely sprout wings and fly off to the sky like an eagle. I literally saw that. My stuff sprouted wings and went, ooh, and it was just gone. And I had this really bizarre moment of seeing that everything I owned in this life ended up in a dump and in a heap. Now, here's what's really interesting. Even when I was driving that car before I flattened it and lost everything, I never drove that car around and was like, check out my car, what up? Like clearly, as you all laughed when you first saw it, it was more like, please hold together at 60 miles an hour. Like that thing just shook like nobody's business north of 50. But here's what's funny. There was a day that somebody chose that car. I found this ad for that car recently. This is like the original ad for selling these. Isn't that hilarious? Like, I love even the advertising. It was designed for doing things. It's ready to prove it. What? That guy should have been fired. What does that even mean? I'm going to use that in leadership from now on. You were designed to do things. Now prove it. You know, it's like, okay, whatever. But here's what's funny. Like, somebody looked at an ad and went, I got to have me that car. I got to it is so versatile. It's like, woo, it's ready to prove some things to me. Somebody drove off of the lot, came home, was like, Fred, come here, check it out. Bam, Omni. Like, somebody was super proud of it. Guess where that thing's at now? It is rusting next to some dirty diapers somewhere. I mean, that's just where it's at. And the reality is, that's where it's all going. Which is why Jesus says, you can live for what lasts, you can live for what rusts. You can be generous, or you can be stingy. And those decisions have massive implications on the health of your heart, which affects everything else. So here's what I just want to say. If you're willing throughout this series to at least venture with us in this idea of detangling to a healthier degree our stuff from our heart, how do you do that? I think it starts, first of all, with being honest about what our heart is tangled up with. And for all of us, it's different. It's not just money for some of us. For some of us, the stinginess, as Jesus says, is with other things in our life. Maybe with our words, with encouragement, with our time, with our stuff, whatever. But I think you have to start by admitting, like, what am I living for? Am I living for the kingdom or am I living for the world? Am I living for what lasts or am I living for what rusts? And be willing to start to believe Jesus' words that even when he tries to take from you, it's ultimately to give to you. So I want us to watch a story for the next couple of minutes of what it might look like if Jesus was to have an actual conversation right now today in a common setting about this very issue of this entanglement and what he asks for ultimately being about not taking, but giving. Watch this.
Unbelievable. What a jerk.
Rough day?
Huh? Yeah, try a rough year. What's up? Yeah, I already sent it. Well, it's not my fault they don't check their email. All right, well, I'll check in tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Things not going well, huh?
Yeah, you can say that again.
Well, Josh was out of line during the meeting.
Oh, can you believe that guy?
Josh is going through some rough times.
You know Josh.
Yeah, good guy.
Yeah, if you say so.
You know, John, you weren't on your best behavior either.
How do you know? Have we met before?
It's been a while.
All right, look, no offense, but I have no idea who you are.
None taken. I mean, you've been busy with the Sterling project. And Caleb's been acting up in school. Samantha showing signs of anxiety. And you and your wife have been having arguments about having another child.
Whoa. Dude, what are you, stalking me?
I just want to help.
Oh, you want to help? Oh, okay, great. You want to help me? All right. Well, if you want to help me so much, why don't you get my wife to understand my side? Or how about you close this deal for me so I can keep my job? Or better yet, why don't you put some cash in my account if you want to help me so much? Why don't you do me a favor? Butt out. Hey, look, man. You're just freaking me out a little with knowing the whole Sterling thing and Caleb, Sam. And how the heck do you know my name?
Well, your dad wanted to call you Robert, but your mom wanted to call you Jonathan after her favorite uncle. And, well, I guess we know who won those debates, don't we? Little weird, me knowing everything about you, isn't it?
Come on, man.
Every last little detail. Try me.
Oh, you're serious? All right, okay. In 7th grade, I had a crush on a girl named Shannon Wood. And I wrote her a note that asked if she liked me. She had to pick between 3 boxes, yes, no, or maybe. I put the note in her locker after lunch. What did I write the note on?
Peanut M&M wrapper.
Wrong. I wrote on the outside of a Mariah Carey CD that I gave her during Valentine's Day. So there.
Well, actually, that was the second draft. The first draft you wrote on a peanut M&M wrapper the day before, on the bus. I remember when she gave back the note and she had checked no, you were really hurt. Boy, were you mad at me?
Wait, why would I be mad at you? Hey, sir. Are you? Come on. Oh, my God. My you. Huh? Wait a second. Whoa. Am I dead?
No, John, you're not dead.
Okay, well, you know what? In that case, the thing I said about my wife last week, I didn't mean it.
It's okay.
Hey, and then that thing that happened at the restaurant on Saturday, that was not my fault. In the office supplies in my car that I took from work. Let me tell you something. I was gonna return it.
John,
I was gonna return it. You know I was gonna return it.
it's okay. We can work on that stuff later.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think you need to do to change your life?
I'm not sure. Move to Africa? Become a missionary?
No, that would be bad for you. How about letting go of some things?
I mean, you think that'll help?
With the way your things are going? Why don't we start with money? Let's take a look in your wallet.
Let's see. I think I only have, I only got 100.
Well, John,
What? Okay, I did not know that was there. Okay, honest.
by the way, happy birthday. I saw that you got yourself an early birthday present.
Yeah, she's beautiful, isn't she? Just had her detailed. Unbelievable acceleration, infotainment system,
Tri-zone, temperature control, the ambient interior lighting. Yeah, you got a lot of nice extras.
All right. Can't believe I'm doing this.
You're doing great. Now, what's in the backpack?
Laptop, quarterly reports, ID card.
I will take your job.
You can have my job.
I mean, I want you to give me your job.
I don't know. Like, this is my livelihood you're messing with. You know, I don't make a lot of money, but I got bills to pay. Insurance, a mortgage.
You have a very nice home, especially with all the work you've done. Subway tiles are a little cliche.
You want my home, don't you? That's a lot to ask.
No one's twisting your arm.
My money, my car, my job, my house. What's next? My family?
You have a good-looking family.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. This is from our vacation to Washington, D.C. My family?
Sounds like a lot, isn't it?
You think? my wife, my kids. You know what, here, take my phone. Take my ring. All right, there you go. You have everything. I have nothing left.
There is one more thing.
What? What were you talking about? I have given you everything. I have nothing else to give you. You want me? I mean, what could you possibly do with me?
You'd be amazed.
All right. Okay, yeah, you can take me too. I'll do it.
Feels better, doesn't it?
Hey, you know what it does? Now what?
Now we can begin. Here.
Wait, what are you doing?
You're welcome. I just want you to remember that these things are all mine, but I'm giving them to you like a gift. Use them wisely.
Yeah, but you still have my life. Do I get that back too, or?
Do you really want it back?
Yeah, I guess I don't. What am I supposed to do with all this?
Check in with me. I'll let you know.
I lean not on my own understanding. My life is in the hands of the maker of heaven. I lean not on my own understanding. My life is in the hands of the maker of heaven. I give it all to you, God, trusting that you make something beautiful out of me. I give it all to you, God, trusting that you'll make something beautiful out of me.
I love the question when he says, "You gonna give me my life back?" And he said, "Do you want it?" I told you this last couple of years has been an experience of a lot of moments where God has said, "Give me." Moments that didn't make a lot of sense at times, some that I got and I willingly went ahead, some that I resisted and fought, and yet every one of them, on the other side of them, I realized even when he's taking, he's giving. Even when he takes, he gives. So I'm gonna do this at record speed right now, but I wanna give you just a few handles, ways to know how to grab hold of this and walk it through the rest of the series, not just today, but through the rest of the series. If we're gonna really say, God, how do I detangle my stuff in my heart in a healthier way so that my heart is captivated for you, for the kingdom, for eternity, for what lasts? Here's a couple things I wanna encourage us to do. They'll be on the screen. Maybe you wanna write them down or snap a picture. Number one is to admit the places of your heart that are selfish. Just admit it. Like, be honest about it. I'll be the first to jump in and say, I have selfish places in my heart. There are still places I desperately need God to help me that I just keep saying no to him, that I have a hard time giving up, or I have a hard time sharing and being generous with. And I'll also be honest with you, for me, it's not really money. It might, yes, Lord? It might be because I've never had tons of it, but I would also say for me, here's my real struggle. is stuff. I grew up very poor, in a poor community, in a poor home, and we just didn't have a lot of stuff. So when I get stuff now, my stuff means something to me, and I have a hard time sharing it. Right now, I'm doing a renovation in my basement at home, and yesterday, this is so ridiculous, but yesterday, we're painting, and my wife goes, let Tobin use the Wagner sprayer. I was like, no, he'll mess it up. And so then I went on this whole rant about how I've had this $89 Wagner sprayer for like 16 years because I clean it diligently and I take care of it and I put things back. You see how that boy treats things and I'm thinking, how ridiculous, McGlasson. You won't even let your son use your $89 16-year-old Wagner sprayer. I know there are places in my heart that I'm still selfish and that I'm stingy and I need God to deal with those places. So how about you? Because all of us are selfish in one place or another. So it begins with admitting, God, I have selfishness, and here's where mine tends to camp. But I would say number 2 is if you're going to admit selfishness, then you also have to confess the moments that you regret generosity. You have to regret the moment after you've given. So here's what usually happens. When we're at a moment where we can be generous, you know what attacks us ahead of time? Greed. You know what attacks us afterwards? Grief. Like, why did I do that? So years ago, I was on a mission trip to Cuba, and it was a trip that I'd been able to be a part of with the church that I was at. We had done these trips multiple years, most of them to Haiti and Africa and other places, but every time we went, I learned the same thing. Nobody has the tools we need. And so with a little bit of a background in construction, I have quite a bit of tools. So I got to the point where I started taking 2 suitcases just jam-packed with all my tools. So we had everything we needed when we got there. So we get to Cuba a couple years ago for a similar trip, and they had nothing. I'd never seen that kind of lack of tools. As a matter of fact, there was even one point where the pastor we were working with, he's like watching me use my drill, and he's just like fascinated, like, oh. Like, you never seen one? He goes, mm-mm. He goes, I'll never own one. I said, well, how would you get it? That can't be. There's got to be drills in Cuba. He said, maybe if I was lucky enough, I could get one on the black market, but if I got caught, I'd go to prison. Like, get out of here. So I have this moment where I felt like God said, give it to him. I was like, the drill? He's like, all of it. Like all of it, or? And so I did. I called him in. It was one of our last days. I was like, come here. And so we had this moment. We talked, and I said, I want to give you that. And he did the same thing. He goes, the drill? I was like, oh, he would have been fine with the drill. And I was like, no, all of it. And we wept and we hugged, and it was amazing. And I walked into the next room, and I kid you not, in the next room, not 5 minutes later, I went, oh, what did I do? And then I got home, and that next weekend, I go into my garage. I'm like, I need the drill. It's in Cuba. And so I had this real moment where I had to face that even when you have a moment of generosity, sometimes you can follow it up with a moment of regret. So if we have to admit where our hearts are selfish, we also have to confess the moments that we want to backtrack on our generosity that God pushes us into. Because grief will plague us even on the other side of it. The third thing is simply this, is look for different ways to be generous. Look for different opportunities to exhibit a generous heart. Again, some of you are incredibly generous financially, but you're selfish with your time. Some of you are generous with your time, but you're selfish with your stuff. Some of you are generous with your stuff, but you're selfish with your words and encouragement. Like, there's just different ways that not only do we tend to be selfish, but there's also a plethora of ways that we can be generous to other people. It doesn't always have to be the same thing. So I love to look around and go, what are the different ways that I can be generous? Because it's not always just financial. The generous posture of the kingdom is a generous posture that says, I'll be generous with everything, not just with some things. And then lastly, I would say this, and I think for me, this has rung true, and I think it will for you too. I think if we practice a more grateful heart, we'll find our hands opening up more and more with what we have to bless others. See, for so many of us, I think our selfishness is a result of our forgetfulness, is that we have forgotten the great and incredible things that God has done for us. From the life he has given us, salvation he has offered us. If you wake up in the morning in this snowy, overcast, dringy weather, and yet you have joy, that's a gift from God. When you drive your car back home today, gift. The job that you get to go to, gift. There's a verse in the Bible, David once wrote it in Psalm, that says that the earth and everything in it is the Lord's. You know, one of the marks of spiritual immaturity is when we go through life like immature kids and we go, everything's mine. It's mine, 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 mine. But if David was true when he penned those words, and I believe he was as he was led on by God to write them, then everything is not yours. Nothing is yours. Everything is his. At best, I own nothing. It's on loan to me. And the more I forget how good God has been to me, the more selfish I am with my stuff. You know, I showed you that picture of Tobin when he was all done up with his wires. Well, here's another one. This is he and I just 2 weeks ago standing on the top of Cowper Mountain in Colorado. I've had that boy on a board since he was 5 years old. It's one of our favorite things to do together. And it is not lost on me that he is a gift that there was a day I wondered if I would continue to have. And God let me have him, Nicole and I. There's been moments we've wanted to give him back. But the more I remember the things God has blessed me with and allow my postured heart to be one of gratefulness, I don't find the need to have to hold on to my stuff. I can bless it back to him. I can bless it back to others. I can release it. Because when the king has your heart, he's got everything you hold here. We're going to sing a song, King of My Heart. And I hope those words will be true as we sing them, not just that he is king, but that he's king of this.
Let the king of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, he is my song. And let the king of my heart be the shadow
as you walk out this morning, you're going to be handed a pamphlet. And here's the importance of that pamphlet. We're going to talk more about it through the series. We're going to explain it more throughout the series. But it's an opportunity for us to really step into this generous way. We're calling it the Generous Challenge. This is not the only way to be generous is with our finances. But when Jesus himself said there's two masters to serve, one is money, one is me, it forces us to have to reconcile with what we do with it. And whether or not we have made him Lord over everything, including our Benjamins. And so we're just going to present a challenge that we're all, staff included, all of us are going to take, consider, and prayerfully figure out how we step into it. So I want you to take it on the way out because we believe this. There's a place where God said, you can even test me on this and see. I'm true to my word. I bear back when you trust me, life abundant that you couldn't imagine. And so we're going to do that together, I hope. And so as you walk out, make sure to grab one of those. I want you to start to see it, read it, and just pray as we lean into the next couple of weeks of this series for how it is God wants to lead us, how it is he wants to challenge us, how it is he wants to detangle our stuff from our heart to lead us to better health. Don't forget, midweek is this coming Wednesday. Next Sunday, we'll see you again. Thanks for being with us this morning, and have a great rest of the week.